What brought you into explore timeless life and eternal youth at the same time with the contradictions of giving up love in a way?
Yeah, well, I'd been sent the script 5 or 6 years ago, and I read it cover to cover right away, and the first thing that hit me was this idea that this is a movie about the beauty in growing old, and I'd never seen that movie before. And so right away I'm hooked because I'm always, as all filmmakers are, I'm looking for that original story, that original concept. And so for me, absolutely original, absolutely unique, and maybe just as important, it was a really sort of universal love story on a palette that I hadn't seen before.
How important was it for you to get all these great actors that are part of the story? I mean,
it's critical. I mean, the old cliche, of course, is it's 90% casting, which is true. I mean, I think first and foremost, casting Blake. I mean, casting Adaline was the most important part of this process, undoubtedly, and we needed somebody who could really carry the sort of the gravity of having lived for over a century. And as I keep saying, Blake is an old soul, and understood that her inherent sophistication and the inherent being an old soul was critical to this part. And so it started with her, and then of course Harrison lent us a kind of gravitas in that part that I don't think we would have necessarily had if it was anybody but Harrison.
How difficult was it to create it, because she moves around many worlds and many different periods in San Francisco, and how close did you work with the designers, the set designers, the wardrobe, and all these people?
Very close. I mean, I have to point out David Lanzerberg, my cinematographer, is my right hand collaborator, and Claude Perret, our production designer, did an amazing job. And then, of course, Angus Strathy, our costume designer, who is an Academy Award-winning costume designer. They've done just extraordinary work here, and a lot of it is about making sure that every vignette has its own look, but that it still feels like one movie, one continuous film, as it were.
In a way, it's a story of hope. I mean, we all want her to give up something to get, no?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think the takeaway here, hopefully, is that the love component of this speaks to needing to become vulnerable, something Adaline hasn't allowed herself in many, many years to actually enjoy the fruits of love, and without becoming vulnerable, it's hopeless. So hopefully the movie speaks to that a bit.
Is the concept of youth, eternal youth, overrated? I mean, in Hollywood especially, we all want to get facelifts.
Of course. Yeah, no. I mean, listen, I think, again, that was what drew me to the story, is that we live in a world that's so consumed with youth and vanity, and here's a story that highlights the beauty in growing old, and I think it's hopefully people who see it identify with that, and maybe for a minute lose the idea of staying young forever for a minute.
San Francisco is a beautiful city. It's a character in the movie.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little about that?
Of course. Listen, it's an extraordinary city. It's a city where you can point the camera anywhere and you're going to get something interesting. And it's got such history, and Adaline's story has such history. So we hopefully wanted to parallel the development of San Francisco with Adaline's journey. And maybe just as important, it's a city that hasn't been overly photographed the way maybe New York has, and it seemed like an opportunity to write a love letter to San Francisco as well.